All right, let's go live, everybody. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome. Having a little trouble going live on Facebook, but I am live everywhere else. There it goes. I think. All right, let's check it out. Interesting. Keeps telling me it should go live soon. How about now? Now would be good. Not sure what's going on here on Facebook. Let me check one more thing here. Let's try now. Sorry for the delay, folks. Just trying to get one more stream going here. The main stream seems to not be cooperating. Try it again. And one more time. Otherwise, we'll just go on without that platform. Told it to go live. Oh, there we go. Finally, last-ditch effort. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm not sure what's going on over on Facebook, but if you can see this on Facebook, great. If you can't, it looks like just a bad day for Facebook because it's working everywhere else. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining my live stream today. Today, we're going to do a quick tip on working with adjustment layers. And with that said, have we come back? Has it come back? I'm just looking over here. It looks like it's come back. Okay, so with that said, again, welcome, everyone. We're going to do a quick tip on working with adjustment layers. Now, for those of you who are new to Photoshop, who don't use Photoshop regularly or self-taught, or just, you want to see something about adjustment layers. Adjustment layers are one of the oldest features in Photoshop. They go back to Photoshop 4. I don't mean CS4, I mean 4. Photoshop 3, the big new feature in Photoshop 3 was layers in general. Can you imagine there was a time before layers? And then I think it was the next year or next 18 months later, Photoshop 4 came out with adjustment layers to add on to layers. So I'm going to show you what they're like, what they're for, why you would use them, and of course, how cool they can be for doing non-destructive adjustments in your work. So without further ado, let's switch over to the computer. And that way, you guys can see what I'm going to be doing now that we're there. So I'm going to start out with just a basic image. that needs an adjustment. I'll just show you how they work. And then we'll do like 1 or 2 more examples after that. All right, so let's start with this one. All right, basic outdoor portrait. I didn't shoot this. This is from Adobe stock. But by the look of it, it's just, the whole image just could stand to be a little bit lighter. Now, there are several ways to do that. You could use curves, you could use levels, you could use the camera raw filter, you can use just a ton of ways to just make an image brighter. But adjustment layers are great because they let you do the thing that you want to do without any downside. In other words, it will be adjustable after the fact. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to switch over to the adjustment panel. Let me pull the adjustment panel out. I normally have it docked. And as you can see, there are several adjustments. And you don't have to remember what the icons are, because as you hover over each one, it will show you what they are and what they, you'll pretty much be able to guess what they do. If not, just play with them because they're cool to do. Now, I haven't made this into a layer. It's just in the background. But for example, if I grab you might think, oh, the brightness and contrast adjustment layer. Brightness and contrast goes way back. Like that was one of the first ways in Photoshop to make something brighter or darker. But yeah, Photoshop 3 had layers, Photoshop 4 had adjustment layers. All right, so with that said, let's go in and just click brightness and contrast. Now, I never ever use this because back in the day, I'll show you the way it used to work. It just used to, this is not doing a bad job, and you would then increase the contrast. It's not bad, but then the highlights start to blow out, then it does start to get bad. So the new adjustment, without using the legacy feature, tries to do a better job without so quickly blowing out the highlights. They're starting to go, but they're starting to go a lot slower. So legacy means do it the old way that everyone hated. The legacy code is in there just in case you have images that have been adjusted with the old way. The new way, of course, will be better. I never use this. I never use brightness and contrast because there are more sophisticated ways to do it. All right, so if I don't like this adjustment, number 1, I could just turn it off. Number 2, because it's non-destructive. Number 2, if I ever want to make changes to it again, I can always come back to it and make changes if it's on and see those changes. And number 3, if I really don't like it and don't need it anymore, I can just simply throw it away and drag it down to the trash icon or just hit the trash icon, and away that adjustment layer goes. It did not touch my original pixels, and that's what's great about adjustment layers. All right, next. If I want to, hang on a second here, just real quick. There we go. I see people joining now. If I want to use a more sophisticated way, I have a couple ways of doing it. I have levels, I have curves, and I have the way that I like the most, which is exposure. So let's try each one. If I do levels, that gives me the control over my shadows, my midtones, and my highlights. And so, for example, I could adjust the overall image to be darker, the overall image to be brighter, which starts again to blow out the highlights, or just make the midtones brighter, so forth and so on. So I can kind of really experiment and play based on the histogram. So I do like levels, and I was using levels pretty much exclusively before we got exposure. Because exposure is what I'm really used to in photography, adjusting the exposure of an image. So when I click on exposure, I get the ability to just simply make the image brighter without damaging anything in the photo. I didn't have to adjust contrast. I didn't have to worry. Now, if I go too far, I will blow out the highlights. But it just, with one slider, made the image better. So that's what I like about this. Now, again, if you're a curves or levels person, you got those adjustments. If you just like good old-fashioned brightness and contrast, you've got that. But several ways to do the same thing. And I prefer, for my way of lightening or darkening an image, exposure. But your choice. You got 4 ways to do it. Now, let's look at a different image. Let's close this one. And let's look at this image. All right, so I want to make an adjustment to the image. I want to make the image black and white. So that's cool. There's a black and white adjustment. Cool. I click it. It gives me a black and white photo, but I don't like the way the black and white photo looks. The blue turned into this dark blue. The yellow kind of turned into a dark yellow. I just don't like the way it looks. Well, you can see in the sliders for that adjustment, it remembers what colors are in the photo. And if you don't remember what colors are in the photo, you've got this great target adjustment tool up here to make an adjustment. So for example, I could click on that adjustment and just click anywhere on the blues or whatever that shade is. Let's say I don't remember. And I can just drag left or right to adjust. In this case, it was the cyans, not the blues, but I can adjust the cyan of that image. If I want the yellows, come over here, click, hold down, and adjust the yellows in that image and get it just the way I want. Now you'll notice another thing about adjustment layers. You'll notice that on the right-hand side, there's a mask, that little white rectangle right here. That's the mask that comes with all adjustment layers. You have the ability to go in. Yes, this is adjustment layers have been around for years. So yeah, it should be on all CS versions. All right, so you've got the ability, you made me forget what I was going to say. Oh, the mask. So you got the ability to hide part of the adjustment so that it doesn't apply. So for example, let's say I wanted to bring back the yellow in the flower. Well, one way I could do that is I can grab the paintbrush. Since the mask is white and I want to bring something back, I just hide that adjustment with black. So I'm just painting in black and it's bringing back the color in that image because it was never gone. It's just hidden by this adjustment layer. This adjustment layer does not affect does not permanently affect the photo underneath. Now, if I wanted to do that maybe in a smarter way, then I might do something like go to the image, go to my quick select tool, and then say select subject. And when I do a select subject, that will figure out or do its best to figure out what I'm trying to select. So it's kind of confusing with the different colors there or different shapes, but I can just go ahead and quickly correct that. And so now I got the entire flower selected. I don't want to change the flower. I want to change the mask. So I click back on the mask. Big step, because if you keep working now, you'd be working on the background. I want to work on the mask. And I just want to hide that mask on the entire photo. So what did I do? I did Option or Alt Delete. In other words, fill that selected area in with my foreground color, which is black. So instead of me trying to paint and keep it within the lines, I can just fill it with black. And therefore I'm hiding that black and white adjustment on that part of the photo. So if you look at the mask, it shows that the black is on the flower, the white is on the background, so the white is being adjusted by the adjustment layer, and of course, the original photo is untouched. So that's why adjustment layers are so cool, is that you can make these adjustments without doing any harm to the photo. All right, so next up, let's get a little bit more carried away. Let's try something a little bit more elaborate. So, and by the way, I can just close this. I don't need to make any more adjustments or delete it. All right, so next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna open up, and here I'll move my adjustments out of the way. I'm gonna open up a photo, two photos here. I'm gonna open up this stock image, all right? And let's zoom in on it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just drag an image on top of it. I want this old suitcase in my image. Now, before I go any further, before I bring the suitcase in, I like this image, but what bugs me about it is notice that the sun is setting or rising, setting it looks like, in the background. He's obviously being lit by the sun on the side we don't see, and therefore his back is dark. Perfect. Why is the rock so bright behind him? Why is the thing he's standing on so bright behind where he is? Where's his shadow that would be cast on that rock? This makes me feel like this is a composite. I could be wrong. This could just be a shot that's weird that way. But I feel like this was composited somehow into this shot. Like this is a stock image, so I'll never know. But it doesn't look right to me. So before I bring that suitcase in, let me just do a couple quick things that will make it look better to me. I'm going to go ahead and grab my dodge and burn tool. I'm going to grab the burn tool. I'm just going to darken this. So I am making a real, a pixel level adjustment. This is actually darkening the pixel. So if you want to protect it, if you want to make sure you're not damaging the photo, then just simply duplicate the layer. And that way you have your original underneath and you're not wrecking your original. All right, so anyway, that to me looks a little bit more like the way it would be in real life. If this bright sun is coming this way, the rock behind him wouldn't be so bright, just in my opinion. It wouldn't be so bright on this side. So I can go ahead and just use the burn tool and darken it up a bit. Okay, that was just a personal pet peeve. Now let's, must be shot in Ireland. Now let's go ahead and bring over the suitcase. I'm just going to drag that image over. And of course, the image comes over with its existing background. So it was on a white background. The background comes over. We can get rid of that background pretty quickly just by going to Quick Select. And we're just going to do Select Subject because I don't want to have to select it myself when I've got the Adobe Sensei powered Select Subject to do it for me. Now that that's been selected, I just go to the very next button. I'm up here at Select Subject, very next button, Select and Mask. Then I click, and that will cut it out for me. Love, love, love. Select Subject and Select and Mask. Okay, so now I'll create a new layer with the suitcase on it. Great. And I'll hit Command T for free transform. And I know people say, well, free transform, why are you not holding down the shift anymore? Anyway. So we're not going to hold down the shift because we don't have to anymore. If you want to distort it, then that's when you hold down the shift. So let's put this where I want it. And I'm not, again, I would put a shadow under it if I have more time, but I'm just going to make this a little smaller, kind of tilt it down a little bit. And once I lock it in, it's got the same problem. The problem is the suitcase is too bright on this side of the suitcase for this scene. So it looks like the suitcase has its own light on it because the suitcase was shot somewhere else and brought in. So that's why we would want an adjustment layer. We want the ability to adjust that suitcase without affecting the rest of the scene. That's where it gets tricky. Because the way adjustment layers work, they work down. So for example, if I were to bring over or click on an exposure adjustment, and I were to say, drop the exposure down, look at what happens. It starts to darken everything. That's not what we want. So let's undo that. Actually, let's just throw it away. I'm going to show you the way I would do it normally. Actually, I didn't have to throw it away. But anyway, let's bring in that exposure adjustment. And before I even start adjusting it, what I want to do is to tell Photoshop to not apply it to all the layers below, only one layer below. So in other words, group with the previous layer. Now there's a shortcut for that. And here I'm going to show it to you on the layers panel. You can see that when I point at any layer, it's just a finger. But if I hold down the Option on Mac or Alt on Windows key, it changes into that little curved arrow going down saying that, oh, you only want to apply this exposure adjustment one layer down. So when I click, look, I get that same arrow over there on the layer. So now when I make that adjustment, it will only affect the suitcase because I told it to group with previous. So I can make the suitcase as dark as he is without affecting every single layer. Now, don't think of adjustment layers as they're like one-off or one thing that you have to do and you can only do one. You can do as many adjustment layers as you want. So for example, photo filter is another way that I like, especially when I'm doing composites. If I want the overall scene to have the same look and feel. So in this case, I would want to apply it to all the layers. So when I click photo filter, I can apply a warming filter to everything. So see the suitcase getting warm too. Or if I felt that everything else was already warm enough and I just wanted to warm up the suitcase to match the scene, then I would hold down my Option or Alt key one more time and tell it to only apply to the suitcase. So that's cooler, that's warmer. See the suitcase getting less orange, more orange. So that way it's now kind of matching that sunset up here where it's kind of orange as it would be with the sunset. And now that suitcase is also kind of orange too, just like he is, just like everything else in the scene would start to get. So just keep in mind, The adjustment layers are free. You can have as many as you want. You can use the same one over and over again. You can have the same one do different effects. You can also go in and target it to just one layer below. So you can even sandwich them in between layers, so it affects the layer it's right above. And one more thing, I was going to be done with this, but this is kind of a carryover from a stream I did the other day, or the other week, not the other day. And that is getting back to what if you want to change the color of something. So there's this great adjustment layer called Hue and Saturation. When I click on Hue and Saturation, I then get the same kind of targeted adjustment that we used on the blue before. And now I can say on these yellow, the yellow part of the flower, click and drag. And right now that's adjusting the saturation. Or I can say adjust the color. Let's get a different color for our flower. So hue, less or more saturation, and it's only affecting the color that I originally sampled. If I want to extend the range of that color, because some of the yellow in here is not being affected, then I can extend that range by dragging these little range sliders here on the hue and saturation adjustment. These range sliders drag out. You can also reposition it to adjust the range that it's affecting. So now that's getting more of the other color, and then I can adjust accordingly for whatever kind of flower that I want. So maybe I want something in the reds, and again, a little bit less saturated or a little bit more saturated, a little darker, a little lighter. You can play, ooh, I like it lighter. I like it lighter a lot. All right, so adjustment layers are awesome. Use them all the time. All right, so with that said, this was supposed to be a quick tip. We're already at 22 minutes. Sorry for the late start on the Facebook side. It was just giving me an issue. Don't know why. But enjoy, go out, do your adjustment layer thing. And with that said, cheers everyone. Thanks for watching. I will be back tomorrow. Usual place, InDesign Tuesday. So the InDesign Facebook page, and of course my YouTube and Twitter as well. So if you haven't liked the Adobe Creative Cloud Facebook page, go like it so you know when these broadcasts happen, not just from me, but from other people. Same thing on InDesign, same thing on CC Design, same thing on Lightroom, same thing on Students, Adobe Students. We broadcast on all the main Adobe properties. All right, much love and thanks. You're welcome, Milton, and insert applause. Alan, thank you. And great. Thanks, everybody. All right, cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. We will catch you on the next one. Bye.